Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 11 of my podcast, Book and Story World with author Priya Grewal. So I hope everyone's having a fabulous week so far, and thank you to anyone who tunes into my podcast or any of its episodes. Today, I thought I would read aloud half of my horror novel book called Vampires Strike the Town. The subtitle on the front is Evil Has Arrived, and that's by myself, Priya Grewal, and Vampires Strike the Town is available on Amazon in paperback or on Kindle. So Vampires Strike the Town is a teen horror, as it is set in a secondary school or high school. So I'm just going to read out the first 9 chapters today and the following 9 chapters, the rest of the book, next Wednesday. So let's dig in. Vampires Strike the Town by myself, Priya Grewal. Chapter 1. Raskal was walking home from school with his good friend Tolion. They both attended the Waslov school in their hometown Peresnol. Both boys were 17 years old. They had just recently started Year 12 and their AS level year in school. They were having fun wearing smart casual clothes now they were officially in sixth form. No more school uniform for themselves. Raskal was extremely handsome. He had wavy brown hair and startling blue eyes. He was a cheerful boy with a dashing smile who was known to be friendly, nice and considerate. He was also quite studious and had gained himself a handful of good GCSE grades before starting sixth form. Tolian, his good friend for a number of years, was also handsome with red hair and ebony eyes. He wasn't as bothered about getting good grades and was happy gaining 5 passes for entry into sixth form. He congratulated Raskal for putting in the effort to take notes and memorize them for revision for exams, compared to himself who settled on reading some textbooks instead of taking notes and memorizing them, for the 5 passes required for sixth form entry into the school they had attended since Year 7. Raskal laughed the compliment off. "Thanks," he responded as the two walked home, not elaborating on the topic any further. Tolian continued to stare at Raskal as they walked home. Raskal glanced at Tolian's face and laughed. "What is it?" Raskal asked Tolian, who was still looking at himself, eyes wide. "Can I tell you a secret?" Tolian asked Raskal. Raskal looked back at Tolian for a moment, thinking about his own ability to keep secrets. "Of course," Raskal responded a moment later, feeling intrigued at what the secret may be. Tolian's dad was a police officer who worked at the local police station in their town of Peresnol. Raskal's parents had purchased a building together and had turned it into a restaurant that they ran together, serving all types of food. Raskal had one younger sister called Lazello. Lazello was 15 years old. Their surname was Gozel. Tolian, on the other hand, was an only child. His dad had been a police officer for 15 years. Tolian's family surname was Coman. Tolian's mum was a stay-at-home mum. "So, what is it?" Raskal prodded Tolian, who hesitated before continuing. "My dad told me that him and some other police officers found a dead body in a park in town," Tolian told Raskal, speaking quietly. Raskal's eyes widened. He listened intently to Tolian. Tolian hesitated again for a moment before continuing. "And it had bite marks on it," Tolian finished. Raskal stared at Tolian, stunned into silence. Chapter 2. "Bite marks?" Raskal eventually responded. "Yes," Tolian replied, eyes still wide. "From an animal, or do you think—" "Vampires?" Raskal asked Tolian, feeling bewildered. "We think it's vampires," Tolian told Raskal. "The bite marks were on the neck, 2 puncture wounds. We think an animal would be messier." Raskal was too shocked to respond. "Well, what would you think if you were a police officer and suddenly a dead body was found with bite marks on it?" Tolian asked Raskal. Raskal thought for a moment. "Well, I guess from all the TV shows I've been watching, I'd think it was a vampire too. The whole world would spin on its head for me with the TV being real," Raskal responded truthfully. "The TV shows are the truth," Raskal exclaimed, dismayed a moment later. Tolian looked at Raskal seriously. "This is top secret stuff, okay? My dad would throttle me if he knew I told you. Do not tell anyone," Tolian commanded, "and I'll keep you posted with any updates. Don't even tell your parents or Lazella." Raskal and Tolian paused at the top of Tolian's road. "I promise," Raskal pledged to Tolian. Tolian nodded his head and smiled gratefully. "Thanks," Tolian thanked Raskal. So vampires are real? Rascal asked Tolian in dismay, not knowing whether to feel scared or not. Looks that way, Tolian murmured back. The two boys fell into silence at the top of Tolian's road. Well, I'll catch you later, Rascal. See you tomorrow. Remember, tell no one, Tolian demanded again before turning to leave. Bye, Rascal called out to the back of Tolian's head. He stood staring at the back of Tolian's head for a moment, trying to process the unsettling news. He blinked a moment later and shook his head, blinking himself out of his shock and bewilderment, and headed to his family home. Chapter 3. That evening, Rascal went upstairs to his bedroom early after having dinner with his family. He pretended he had to read a chapter in his textbook for homework, but really he wanted to think about the possibility or fact that vampires existed. He lay down on his bed, resting his hands behind his head. Vampires exist, he whispered to himself. He didn't know how to feel about it. What were they meant to do? Did God protect the good people on the planet from vampires? Should he buy a crucifix and some garlic? Would the police set up a secret task force to hunt down and kill vampires now they knew they existed? Rascal sighed to himself, hoping there was a divine power up there somewhere that protected all the good humans from the vampires. Rascal rolled to his side. His mind began to wander to a girl from school. She had joined their school as a new student in sixth form. Her name was Helias. She was stunningly beautiful. She had curly auburn hair and beautiful green eyes. He hadn't spoken to her yet, as she was usually surrounded by loads of giggling girls, but today she had cast a dazzling smile in his direction. Rascal smiled to himself, thinking about it. He couldn't help himself from grinning. He wondered if he should try and talk to her, and wondered if the smile was a signal too. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow, Rascal said out loud to himself. He had been in a good mood walking home from school thinking about the smile when Tolian had dropped the news on him that vampires exist. Suddenly he heard his phone vibrate on his desk. He reached for his phone. He had received a text message from Tolian. How are you doing with the news? Tolian had written. Rascal thought to himself for a moment before typing out his response. It's weird. I don't know how to react. Rascal typed back. He decided not to mention Helias, flashing a dazzling smile in his direction today. He would keep it to himself with the big vampire news Tolian was dealing with. Rascal sent his message. A minute later, Tolian replied. I know it's hard to process. Don't worry. My dad said himself and the police force are keeping an eye on the situation and taking it very seriously. I'm going to turn in. I'll chat to you tomorrow. Knock for me in the morning, okay? Rascal typed his message back to Tolian. Sure. See you. He responded. Rascal sighed and lifted himself off his bed. He decided to get ready for bed and turn in early too to help process the disturbing news about vampires existing. Chapter 4. The next morning, Rascal knocked on Tolian's family's house door as requested. Tolian came rushing out a split second later, looking flustered. What's up? Rascal asked curiously. Come on, Tolian instructed hurriedly, walking away from his porch as fast as possible. Rascal fell into step with Tolian and they continued their walk to school, which was around a 6-minute walk away. My dad said they found 2 more bodies yesterday evening in an alleyway. Both were ice-cold corpses with bite marks on their neck. The puncture wounds again, Tolian informed Rascal almost breathlessly. His eyes were wide again. You've got to be kidding me, Rascal asked Tolian, shock filling his insides. Tolian shook his head for a moment. I kid you not, Tolian replied. It's true. My dad said the newspapers or TV news aren't saying a word about it for some reason. He said he thinks it's to avoid mass panic. Rascal felt nearly too bewildered to talk again. Don't people have a right to know? Rascal asked a moment later. Tolian shrugged his shoulders. I don't know what the right thing to do is. I just listened to my dad who told me not to tell anyone, Tolian responded. I promised I wouldn't say anything to anyone, and I won't, Rascal promised Tolian again. Good, Tolian replied appreciatively. The two boys continued walking to school, Tolian continuing to tell Rascal about his dad's experience the evening before. When the two boys reached the school gate, Tolian instructed Rascal to quieten down. Shh, Tolian murmured quietly. Let's stop talking about it now. Rascal fell silent. 2 of their male friends saw the 2 boys approaching the gate and hurried over to themselves. They immediately launched into talking about the latest big computer game. Tolian and Rascal talked and laughed with their friends, pretending not to know anything about vampires. Chapter 5. Later that day, the school buzzer rang at 12:15 p.m., indicating it was lunchtime. Rascal headed to the canteen with Tolian and their two friends, Joa and Kato. As Rascal finished eating his chips, he glanced up to see Helias paying for her food at the till. She was carrying a baguette in her hand. She flashed a dazzling smile in his direction again as she went to join her friends. She went to sit down next to 6 other girls. Helias just flashed a smile in your direction again, Joa informed Rascal. Oh, did she? Rascal replied, feeling flustered, pretending he hadn't noticed. Tolian was sitting opposite himself next to Kato and Joa, and Tolian was sitting next to Rascal. Tolian and Kato turned their heads around to look at Helias sitting at the other table. Yeah, I noticed the one yesterday too, Joa responded. What are you going to do? Joa asked him. What do you mean, what am I going to do? Rascal asked jovially, laughing a little. Tolian and Kato were listening in rapt silence. Well, you should go and talk to her after 2 smiles, Joa advised Rascal. 2 smiles means you don't have to worry about making a fool out of yourself, right? Joa asked. Not that I'm trying to set you up for that or anything, meaning going up to her and getting brushed off, Joa added. Rascal laughed. Well, I'm glad to hear it, Rascal responded, glancing at Helias again. Apparently she's friendly, Kato added. I heard from somewhere. He trailed off. Tolian didn't say a word. He smiled at Rascal. Rascal thought about it for a moment. Okay, I'm going to get rid of my dish at the same time as she goes to the bin to throw her baguette wrapping away. I'll approach and try to make conversation then, Rascal had decided on his plan of action. Good one, Joa responded. Kato turned his head around. Ooh, she's getting up, Kato commented cheekily. Rascal glanced at Helias again and saw her making her way from the table to the bins. Right, Rascal exclaimed, getting up quickly from his seat. I am making contact, he announced. Good luck, Joa exclaimed. We'll be watching. Rascal lifted his tray from the table and approached the bins. He emptied his plate and put it on the counter. Helias threw away her baguette wrapper and stood waiting for her friends. Rascal decided it was now or never. Hey there, Rascal greeted happily. Helias looked stunned for a moment and then responded with a, Oh, hey. How are you doing? Rascal asked Helias. He admired her green eyes and mouth for a moment before she responded. Good, thank you. How are you? Helias asked Rascal. Great, thanks. How are you liking the school so far? You're new, right? Rascal asked, not knowing about noticing her around or not. Yeah, it's good so far. I like all my lessons and teachers, she responded. That's great. I'm Rascal, by the way, Rascal told her. I'm Helias, Helias responded, smiling. That's a nice name, Rascal commented. Thank you, Helias replied, beaming. Do you want to walk to registration together? I think you're a few doors down from me, Rascal suggested. The school buzzer signalling the end of lunchtime was going to sound in 10 minutes at 2 p.m. as usual. Everyone had 5 minutes to get to afternoon registration before the next buzzer sounded at 2:05. Sure, Helias responded after hesitating for a second. I'll just tell my friends. Hey, Taya, Helias called out to a girl who she had been sitting with. I'm going ahead to registration. Taya smiled and nodded. Rascal watched, feeling happy at her saying yes. Helias beamed at himself again. Okay, let's go, she exclaimed. Rascal and Helias began walking to the canteen entrance. Rascal glanced at his 3 friends as he walked by their table with Helias. They all watched, grinning at him. Rascal smiled bashfully. Chapter 6. So where do you live? Rascal asked Helias as the pair walked up the school stairs, making their way to afternoon registration. Oh, 51 Ferrodale Avenue, Helias replied. Ferrodale? Rascal responded. That's only a 5-minute walk away from mine. What road do you live on? Helias asked. Brasdale Road, Rascal replied. So we're practically neighbours, Helias commented. Yeah, we should definitely hang out sometime over the weekend too, Rascal suggested. That would be awesome, Helias responded. Okay, let's exchange mobile numbers, Rascal suggested. Here, Rascal instructed. He got a piece of paper and pen out of his rucksack. Write down your number on this, Rascal told Helias. Rascal and Helias stopped at the top of the stairs. Helias took the pen from Rascal and wrote down her number on the paper he had given her. She leaned the paper on her folder from her bag to write down the number. Raskal retrieved the piece of paper once Helias had written her number down. He tucked it safely into his rucksack. Next, Raskal opened the corridor door for Helias to walk through, himself following. They paused in front of the door of her afternoon registration class. "This is your registration room, right?" Raskal confirmed. "Yes, it is," Helias smiled. Raskal glanced at his watch. There were still a few minutes left before the 2 p.m. buzzer. "Looks like we've got a few minutes to hang out here before the buzzer," Raskal commented. Helias smiled eagerly again. "So, where are you originally from? Which school did you used to go to?" Raskal asked. "I'm actually just from the next town, Rowanwood. I went to a school called Crasdell," Helias told him. "My parents wanted to buy a new house and loved the one on Fairdale Avenue, so we moved and they enrolled me here," Raskal informed him. Enrolled me here," Helias informed him. "Oh, Crasdell," Raskal exclaimed. "I've heard of that. Have you settled into your new house well?" Raskal asked. "Yes, it's great. I love it," Helias responded. "Do you have any siblings?" Raskal asked, making conversation. "I have one older sister called Monal," Helias responded. "We live with our mum and dad." "Is she as beautiful as yourself?" Raskal asked. Helias blushed and started giggling. "Beautiful? Me?" Helias tapped him on his arm, laughing. Raskal smirked. "What?" he laughed. "It's true." "Well, thanks. You're quite all right yourself," Helias remarked. Raskal laughed again. "Thanks," he responded, smiling down at her. His eyes flickered over Helias's curly hair for a moment admirably. Suddenly, the buzzer rang. "Well, looks like lunchtime is over," Raskal responded. "Yes," Helias responded, looking slightly disappointed. "If I don't manage to catch you around for the rest of the week, I'll call you on Saturday to meet up," Raskal asked. "Sounds like a plan," Helias grinned. Raskal couldn't help but grin widely at her. "See you," he exclaimed enthusiastically. "Bye," Helias murmured. She waved her hand and turned around. She glanced back to smile at him. Raskal carried on beaming at her. Finally, she opened the door to her afternoon registration class and walked in. Raskal headed to his registration room, feeling like he was on cloud 9. Chapter 7. It was Friday evening. Raskal's mum was watching soap operas and Raskal's sister Lizella was relaxing on the sofa and reading a book. Raskal was staring at his phone as he laid back on the second sofa in the family room. He was wondering whether he should ask Helias to meet up this weekend. He hadn't managed to talk to her for the rest of the week at school. He decided to send her a text message. "Hey, remember me? It's Raskal." Raskal typed on his phone and sent the text message. He kept staring at his mobile, hoping for a response. He left his phone on silent most of the time so it didn't annoy his mum while she was watching her soap operas. A minute later, Raskal's phone lit up and vibrated, indicating that he had received a new text message. Raskal nervously held his breath as he opened the text message. "Hi, Raskal. Of course I remember you. How are you?" Raskal smiled to himself as he read her response. She had left a little smiley face at the end of the text message. "I'm great, thanks. How are you?" Raskal replied, hitting send on his phone. A moment later, Helias responded with, "Really good, thanks. It was nice talking to you the other day." Raskal couldn't help himself from grinning widely as he read the text message. He decided to suggest meeting up. "It was nice talking to you too. So, do you want to do something tomorrow? I can meet you at the top of your road at 1:15 p.m. and we could walk down to the shopping centre and High Street and hang out there. It's only a 5-minute walk from ours if you haven't been there yet. What do you say?" Raskal typed out the text message and sent it to Helias. He nervously waited for her response. A moment later, his mobile phone lit up again with the response and vibrated. He opened the text message feeling nervous. "Sure, I would love that. See you tomorrow at 1:15 p.m. at the top of my road." Raskal smiled to himself, feeling excited. "See you tomorrow at 1:15 p.m. Don't worry, I'm always on time." Raskal typed out his response and sent it. A second later, he received a text message back from Helias with a smiley face on it. He smiled happily and decided to leave the conversation there. He looked at the TV screen and began to wonder what he should wear the following day. Maybe a casual shirt and jeans, he thought to himself. He felt over the moon about meeting up with the new beautiful girl from school. He had enjoyed talking to her the other day and enjoyed admiring her face too. Raskal's thoughts flickered over to the vampires. He had really started believing that a divine presence was protecting the good humans from vampires, so he didn't need to worry about leaving the house tomorrow. He thought that his family was protected too. Wouldn't loads of us be dead already when vampires are real? May have been killed off ages ago. Some kind of divine power must be protecting us, Raskal thought to himself. Tolian hadn't provided any further news about the vampires. They spoke about it walking to school and from school and pretended for the school day with their friends. Raskal didn't mention a word to his parents and sister as promised. He didn't want to turn their world upside down without permission from Tolian's dad, at least. He decided to stop thinking about the vampires for now and decided to think about his meetup with Helios tomorrow instead. Chapter 8. The next day, Raskal left his house at 1:10 p.m. and made his way to the road that Helios lived on. He looked around himself as he crossed the road, thinking about the vampires. Everything seemed normal with cars driving past as usual. Raskal walked along the pavement and stopped when he reached the top of the road that Helios lived on. He leaned against the wall at the top of Fairdale Avenue. He glanced over the checkered shirt he had decided to wear. It was beige in colour. He had decided to wear black jeans with it. Raskal glanced up and saw Helios walking down Fairdale Avenue towards himself. Raskal smiled as she walked towards him. She looked stunning as usual in a dress with leggings and flat pumps on. Her green eyes glimmered in the sunlight. She smiled back at him. "Hey there," Raskal greeted as Helios stopped in front of him. "Hi," Helios greeted back. "I love what you're wearing." "Oh, thank you," Raskal replied, feeling shy at the compliment. "You look gorgeous," Raskal told Helios. "Thank you," Helios exclaimed, smiling widely at him. "Right, let's get going," Raskal suggested. Helios and Raskal began to walk down the pavement towards the high street. "Have you been to the high street much since you moved?" asked Raskal. "Here and there," Helios responded. "Not socially yet," she added a second later, smiling up at him. "Oh, I had a great summer hanging out there a lot after GCSEs," Raskal told her. "It was the best summer ever, 3 whole glorious months to ourselves." Helios didn't respond for a moment. "Oh, yeah," she commented. "I was abroad visiting family for most of it," she told him. "Oh, really? Whereabouts?" Raskal asked curiously. "Oh, New York, America," Helios informed him. "Oh, wow, that's cool. It's always been a dream of mine to go to New York with the movies and all," Raskal told Helios. "Yeah, it was cool," Helios responded. The pair reached the high street. "Shall we go for some ice cream?" Raskal suggested. Helios smiled up at him. "Great idea," she commented. "Okay, I'll take you to this new dessert place called Montu's," Raskal told Helios. "Yum," Helios responded. The pair walked to the dessert place and learned more about one another. They discussed which subjects they had chosen for AS and A-level. Raskal had chosen humanities only and Helios had chosen science subjects. I hate science," Raskal told her. Helios laughed. "Why? I love it," Helios laughed. "It's just so long, all those notes to take and memorize," Raskal groaned. "I love being a humanities student only. No more maths or science," Raskal told her. Helios laughed again. Raskal and Helios entered the dessert place. They both took a seat at a table and looked at the dessert menu. They both ordered a chocolate sundae each. "It's great having a dessert place here. Reminds me of the movies when the teens hang out in an ice cream parlor," Raskal commented as the pair waited for their sundaes. "Oh, America and their teen movies," Helios commented, rolling her eyes a little. Raskal started to laugh. "You sound like an old woman," Raskal exclaimed. "An old woman," Helios responded, laughing. "It's just because I have family there, so I like to groan about the teen films sometimes." Raskal nodded his head. The waiter placed the 2 chocolate sundaes in front of the pair. They both said thank you. "So, do you have a boyfriend?" Raskal asked Helios, realizing he hadn't asked her yet. No, she quickly responded. "Do you have a girlfriend?" Helios asked Raskal. "No," Raskal replied. "Have you had a girlfriend before?" Helios asked him. "Not properly," Raskal responded. "Just that kid one-day stuff here and there at school in our earlier years." "Hey," Helios responded. "Some people take those one-day things seriously." Raskal broke into hysterical laughter. "You've got to be kidding me," he managed to splutter out in between laughter. Helios grinned. "They do, I swear it. It's big gossip for some of us." Raskal carried on laughing. "Oh, you're hilarious," Raskal couldn't help but tell Helios. "And you?" Raskal asked a moment later when he had stopped laughing. "Have you had a boyfriend before?" Raskal asked. No, never, Helios responded. Rascal was surprised. Really? No one from your old school ever asked you to be their girlfriend when you're this stunning? I don't believe you, Rascal told Helios. Helios smiled. It's true, she insisted. No one ever asked me to be their girlfriend. Well, no one else in your school must have had a boyfriend or girlfriend either. Most people don't look as great as you do, Rascal told Helios seriously. Helios blushed and laughed, embarrassed. Oh, stop flattering me, she joked. I'm not, Rascal insisted. I'm just telling the truth. Helios smiled bashfully. The pair carried on talking about their school and teenage experiences for the rest of the afternoon. Rascal had a great time getting to know Helios for the afternoon. By the time the pair paid for their sundaes and departed from the dessert parlour, Rascal felt as if Helios was already a good friend. They walked and talked, getting along marvellously as they headed home. Rascal dropped Helios to the top of Ferrodale Avenue. Well, I had a great time, Rascal told Helios. Helios smiled up at him. Me too, she grinned. Well, I guess I'll see you at school on Monday, Rascal prepared to say goodbye to Helios. Helios reached up and put her arms around Rascal and hugged him. Oh, Rascal responded, not used to hugs. He responded by putting his arms around her. She let go a moment later. See you on Monday, Helios exclaimed. She glanced up at himself one more time and turned around to head to her house. Bye, Rascal called after her. Helios carried on walking to her house. Rascal smiled to himself as Helios fell out of sight and headed towards his own house, feeling happy about the new friendship. Chapter 9. Rascal was packing his bag for school the following Monday morning around 8 a.m. when he received a text message on his phone. Rascal picked his phone up curiously and saw that Tolian had text messaged himself. Rascal opened the text message to read. Don't knock for me today. I won't be in school until later. Rascal furrowed his brow, confused by the text message. After a moment, he responded with an, okay, see you later. Rascal prepared to leave the house for school. His sister Lazello had already left the house to walk to school with her friends. Rascal rushed down the stairs and kissed his mum and dad goodbye. Rascal departed from his house, not used to walking to school alone. As Rascal made his way to school, he felt excited about seeing Helios again. He really had enjoyed her company during the weekend. Then, Rascal thought about Tolian's text message and the vampire situation. It wasn't normal for Tolian to not walk to school with himself. Rascal wondered if there had been any further developments with the vampire situation. Is that why Tolian wasn't coming into school until later? A few minutes later, Rascal frowned as he approached the school gate. The students standing in front of the school seemed weirdly somber. Rascal saw Kato and Joette come rushing towards him. Have you heard? Kato asked Rascal, eyes wide. Joette was also staring at himself, looking shocked. Heard what? Rascal responded. Do you know who Shunal is? Joette asked Rascal hurriedly. Shunal, Rascal replied. She's in my English class. She's dead, Kato told Rascal, looking dismayed. Rascal felt dread consume his insides. Dead? Rascal responded, shocked. Yes, Joette informed him dramatically. And guess how she died, Kato murmured in a hushed tone. How? Rascal asked, dreading the answer. She was murdered, Joette finished for Kato. Rascal stopped dead in his tracks. It felt as if his world was turning on its head again, knowing that a girl from their school year had been killed by vampires. Okay, so that's the first 9 chapters, the first half of my horror novel, Vampires Strike the Town. Evil has arrived as the subtitle. So I hope everyone's enjoyed the first 9 chapters so far. I will return next Wednesday with the rest of the story, the remaining 9 chapters, and we'll finish the story next week. So I hope everyone has a fantastic week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.